I watched my sister kiss my boyfriend on the rooftop of the Bishop Hotel while the city lights of Denver winked like they were in on the joke. The DJ had just cut from a slow weekend track to something with a bass line that rattled your ribs, and there Brooke was, gripping Logan's collar like a prize she just lifted off a shelf. She pulled back with that smug, dimpled smirk she uses when she thinks she's won. Every head turned. A few phones went up, and me, I took one calm step forward, handed Brooke my champagne flute, and said, "Careful, he stains." Then I smiled. A real smile. The kind you give a toddler who just announced they stole your pen when you were the one who rolled it across the table. Brooke blinked, confused for a beat, like she expected tears or screaming or an airborne heel. She mouthed something that looked like sorry and finally mashed together. Logan glanced between us, hunting for his lines. I touched his shoulder. "You're good," I said. "You're exactly where you're supposed to be." The color drained from Brooke's face. The color drained from Logan's too, but for other reasons. That's the thing about stealing something I set out for you. You never ask why it was so easy to grab. You never wonder about the strings tied around it. The rooftop wind picked up, and the smell of grilled shrimp and drier fresh linen swirled around us. Somewhere a glass shattered. People love a disaster, and apparently I'd turned into the fireworks. But I wasn't a disaster. I was a fuse. I turned to leave, tossed a set of keys into Brooke's surprised hand, and walked toward the elevator without looking back. "Vanessa, wait," she called after me. What is this?" I pressed the elevator button and looked over my shoulder. "A gift," I said. "You'll need them." The doors slid open, and right before they closed, I caught a final glimpse of my sister, my boyfriend, and a city that had no idea a very delicate clock had just started ticking. Tick. Now, before you call me cold, let me start at the beginning, because if you're going to judge me, and I know you will, at least hear the whole story. But before we proceed, please smash the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support means a lot.
I'm Vanessa, 31. I manage events for a boutique nonprofit that runs literacy programs in underfunded schools. We throw the glitteriest charity nights you've never heard of and funnel every penny we can to buy books, pay tutors, stock libraries. I plan parties so kids can read. It's the most backwards American thing, and I love it anyway. Brooke is 29, a social media strategist with a minor in chaos. She's the girl in high school who never studied but always made honor roll because teachers just forgot to submit late penalties. She could charm change out of a parking meter. Growing up in Tallahassee, we were only 18 months apart but lived on different planets. I saved, she spent. I listened, she broadcast. I earned, she acquired. Our mom used to say, "Brooke's a little hurricane Ness, just board the windows and wait it out." She said it like it was cute, like Brooke couldn't help wrecking things. We let a lot slide in the name of love and family. I thought that was kindness. Later, I would call it something else. Cowardice dressed up as virtue. I moved to Denver after college for the mountains and the dry air that made me feel brand new. I met Logan at a bookstore author talk because of course I did. He had that clean, outdoorsy look, jawline, laugh lines, flannel that didn't feel like a costume. He worked as a project manager for a solar company and talked about net metering the way some guys talk about quarterbacks. We grabbed tacos afterward, shared a plate of carnitas, and argued about whether cilantro tastes like soap. It does. Fight me. He seemed grounded and kind, with the streak of absurd humor that fit around my seriousness like a blanket thrown over a sharp chair. He met Brooke 6 months later, at my apartment. She was in town for a brand activation, which is marketing speak for free cocktails in exchange for posting a photo with a neon sign. She breezed in with a suitcase bigger than my dishwasher and a box of macarons she swore were from Paris, even though the sticker said Pearson's Patisserie down the street. Brooke hugged Logan too long when I introduced them. Then she wandered my living room and made comments like, "Wow, it's so cozy," like a Pinterest page if the person pinned things out of pure need. I should have drawn a line. But you know how it goes. Families are messy, and resentment talks itself inside in jokes. The night before she flew back, Brooke and I sat on my tiny balcony with a cheap bottle of Pinot and leftover pad thai. She kicked off her heels and put her feet on my lap like old times. She said, "Logan's cute, like dangerously nice." I said, "He is. I like him because he likes to be useful." "Useful," she repeated, rolling the word around like candy. "You mean generous?" "Both?" She set down her glass and squinted at me. "You ever get bored, Ness, with, I don't know, goodness?" "No." I twirled noodles and took a bite. "Chaos is fun until it's not." She laughed. "You were always the careful one. I'm the story. You're the structure." "I'm the ending," I said, only half joking. "So where does the plot turn?" "Not in the way you'd think. It wasn't one dramatic slip. It was 100 tiny slips. Logan started showing up late, seeing traffic was demonic. He kept his phone face down. He got mysterious about money, even though he'd always split everything evenly. He had new shirts that I hadn't seen him buy and a cologne that seemed a little too glossy for him. It all felt polished, manufactured. If you've ever felt a crack in your life spreading like a hairline fracture in a windshield, you know that stick feeling. Is it better to smash the whole thing with your fist or pretend you don't see the spiderweb forming? One night, I found a missing sock in my laundry basket. Not mine, not Logan's. It was pink and ruffled. I stared at it like it might confess. I wanted a fight. I also wanted to sleep. I stuffed it in a drawer and told myself I was being paranoid. Then a week later, Brooke posted a story on Instagram at a bar on South Broadway. In the background, reflected in the window, I recognized Logan's jacket. I don't stalk social media, but denial has a way of training you into detective work. My stomach dropped, and then something in me went very still. That calm before storm? I found it. I watched for patterns. Not because I wanted proof. I wanted clarity. There's a difference. Proof is for courtrooms. Clarity is for walking out of the building without your heart in a trash bag. Logan kept reassuring me with too much enthusiasm. "You know I love you, right? You're my only," he'd say, overcompensating. It sounded like a man whistling past a graveyard he dug himself. I didn't pick a fight. I made dinner. I planned our nonprofit's gala. I kissed him and counted backwards from 10. This is where you expect me to say I confronted him, he lied, I cried, and then I pulled out a folder of screenshots like a true crime wife. That's not what happened. That's the usual gotcha pattern. And honestly, that's a kind of kindness too. It makes someone choose. I didn't want a choice from Logan. I wanted something else. I wanted Brooke to take the bait. And I wanted to be the one dropping the hook. Before you clutch pearls, hear me. Logan wasn't a monster. He was a man shaped by easy yeses. Brooke wasn't a villain either. She was a person who mistook attention for love. They were perfectly matched puzzle pieces with edges that cut me every day. Maybe the kindest thing I could do, for me, was to let them lock together and keep my blood inside my body. So, I made a plan. A plan with glitter and gift wrap and just enough pettiness to make the universe giggle. My plan started at our nonprofit's spring gala, Readers on the Rooftop, held at the Bishop Hotel. 40 floors up, strings of lights, white tablecloths, the smell of rosemary chicken and city rain. I'd been planning it for months. I also knew Brooke loved a rooftop photo at golden hour like toddlers love sprinkles. 3 weeks out, I called Brooke. "We need a social boost," I said. "Think you could help with promotion?" She squealed. "A charity for kids? Oh, I'm already crying. Yes." "Great," I said. "You'd be in the VIP lounge. There's a content wall, a step and repeat, the works." She didn't ask about pay. Brooke here is VIP and forgets rent is a thing.
I purposely didn't mention Logan's role. He'd volunteered to handle logistics with me, flower deliveries, vendor timing, the boring stuff he was actually good at when he wasn't being a dumbass. Then I made 3 phone calls. The first was to my landlord. "I'm not renewing," I said. "I'll vacate end of the month." "You sure?" he asked. "That place is home." "It was," I said. "Now it's a set." The second was to my friend Hannah, an attorney who does boring contract work with the kind of delight other people reserve for puppies. "I need a new lease," I told her. "Months to month, furnished, utilities included, in my name." "Uh-huh," she said, typing. For temporary subtenants who think they've won a prize." Hannah chuckled. "You're wicked." "I'm orderly," I corrected, "and also a little wicked." The third call was to a pet rescue. Not for a puppy revenge plot, calm down. For a weekend foster of my neighbor's elderly cat, Queenie, while the neighbor traveled. Queenie was the sweetest, laziest sack of fluff on the planet, a living hot water bottle. I was hedging a bet. Brooke wanted my life. She could have it, with naps and fur tumbleweeds and 5 a.m. hairball concerts included. Meanwhile, I started returning things that were mine. My grandmother's china, my framed National Park prints, my inherited tea kettle. Little by little, my apartment turned into a Pinterest set staged by a realtor with a tight budget. Nice at a glance, hollow when used. You ever sit in a staging couch? It's all angles and no kindness. It looks like a hug, but feels like a plank. On the day of the gala, I wore a black silk dress and a red lip that said, "I will read your eulogy with poise." The rooftop buzzed. I moved tables, checked lighting, solved crisis like a tiny goddess of logistics. Logan followed me with a clipboard and that guileless smile I used to find comforting. Around 7, golden hour kissed the buildings. Brooke arrived in a white jumpsuit with a neckline my mother would have fainted at. She swept through like a publicist's fever dream, air-kissing donors, tagging the hotel, thanking sponsors she hadn't met. She kept touching Logan's arm when he passed. That tiny touch like a pebble in your shoe, you feel it every step. I watched. I smiled. I adjusted a centerpiece so it wouldn't block the view when the moment came. At 8:30, I made my rounds to the VIP lounge where the lighting was criminally flattering. I found Brooke and leaned in. "There's a great shot on the upper terrace. City line behind you. Ask Logan to bring you up. He knows the door code." Brooke gleamed. "You're the best," she said, and flitted away. And yes, I pushed. I pushed because they were going there anyway, and I wanted it contained here, wrapped in twinkle lights instead of dim bars and lies. I wanted the climax on a clock I controlled. Am I a control freak? Maybe. But control freaks get things done. What happened up there, you already know. The kiss, the phones, my smile, the keys. Those keys weren't random. They were to my apartment. Freshly staged, quietly stripped of anything that mattered. On a ring was a tag with Brooke's name on it in my neat handwriting.
careful. He stains, I told her. I wasn't talking about wine. I was talking about the way men like Logan leave fingerprints on your days. Calls you wait for, plans you rearrange, parts of yourself you mute. Brooke could have all of it. When I reached the lobby, I took a deep breath so deep it scraped my lungs. There's a kind of joy that's not giddy. It's a clean hallway after you mop, the kind that smells like lemon and start over. I got in my car and drove to a short-term rental I'd booked for a month. It had creaky floors, a lemon tree on the balcony, and a stack of blank notebooks on the coffee table like God was the landlord and believed in me. I set down my phone and let the universe juggle what I'd thrown in the air. That night, Brooke texted me, "We should talk. Tomorrow, lunch?" I turned my phone face down and slept without dreaming. The next morning, I made coffee in a French press the size of a vase. I fed Queenie, who accepted me as staff. And then, like clockwork, the dominoes I'd leaned started to fall.
Brooke arrived at my apartment building around noon with 2 suitcases and rolling bravado. "I'm just picking up a few things for Logan," she told the concierge with a smile that says, "Trust me, I buy expensive candles." She used the keys, she stepped into my place, and gasped. Because here's the thing about a staged life. At first glance, it looks perfect. The bed is crisp, the throw pillows have karate chops like in magazines, the fridge is stocked with sparkling water and blueberries that somehow don't go bad. Brooke walked in and thought she had entered a version of me that existed in her head. Easy, aesthetic, undemanding. She wheeled in the suitcases like a queen reclaiming a throne. She didn't notice the fine print. Like the polite little placards it said on the counters, the kind you get at Airbnbs. "Welcome, please remember no loud music after 10 p.m. The neighbor, Mrs. Diaz, is a light sleeper and knocks with a broom." Or, "Don't run the dishwasher and washing machine at the same time or the power will trip and you will have to reset it in the utility closet behind the ficus." Or, "Queenie eats at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. sharp. If you're late, she will scream." She didn't notice the calendar on the fridge. "Logan's dentist, Tuesday, 3 p.m. HOA meeting, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Bring cookies, new president to be appointed. Package pickup for Brooklyn Glow, brand boxes, fragile." Brooklyn Glow was Brooke's side hustle, a skincare bundle that was basically coconut oil in a cute jar. She'd been trying to get a P.O. box close to her place forever since she moved around a lot. I'd gotten her on a wait list. While she flirted at bars, I made friends with the post office lady. I knew that if a package pickup sticker showed up anywhere, Brooke would chase it like a cat after a laser pointer. The HOA note, that one was my favorite. My building's president had begged me to take the job when he moved. He said, "You're organized insane." I am both. I also know when to be neither. I declined and said, "Let me nominate someone." He shrugged. "Whoever shows up to things for optics." Influencers. You know who brings cookies because it looks adorable? My sister. Meanwhile, I moved through my week like a person whose bones had remembered to sit correctly. I donated 2 trash bags of clothes I didn't like but kept out of habit. I volunteered at a Saturday reading hour in a school library that smelled like old glue and hope. I laughed at a kindergartner named Tina who insisted pizza is a fruit because it makes me feel happy. Logan texted me twice. "Can we talk?" and "I'm sorry." I didn't answer yet. Some apologies need time to find their spine. I wasn't going to be the chiropractor. By Tuesday, my plan had its shape. Brooke and Logan had moved into my place, without asking, which was kind of the point, and the building had registered them as temporary tenants with my note on file. "They'll be staying while I'm out of town," I'd written. "All HOA responsibilities transferred to my proxy." My proxy? The occupant listed on the lease. Guess who wrote her name in a flourish on the visitor log? Brooke. Wednesday night, Brooke put on a lemon yellow dress and heels you could see your panic attack in. She texted me a mirror selfie captioned, "HOA thing tonight, lol, wish me luck." I sat on the rental sofa with Queenie purring like a broken AC unit and whispered to no one, "Good luck." I wish you could have seen the group she met. Mr. Patel, who runs at 5 a.m. and believes everyone else should too. Mrs. Diaz with her broom. 2 college kids who use their apartment like a club. And Norma, who's 74 and brings baked Zita to every gathering. They asked for volunteers for president. Brooke raised her hand, then set down a plate of store-bought cookies on a paper doily like a prop. Unanimous. Why do I care about an HOA? Because petty power is the most exhausting job in America, and Brooke just got promoted. She wanted my life? Enjoy the emails about recycling bins and the guy on floor 3 who thinks the hallway is a garage. Before you accuse me of cruelty, remember, I didn't make Brooke take the keys. I didn't make Logan kiss her. I didn't make her write her name down. I just set the table. They sat. Also, my plan had sweetness. I meant it when I told you I believe in kindness. I arranged for donations from the gala to stock the building's little free library in the lobby. The kids' books came in boxes. A lot of boxes. The post office lady texted me, "Your sister's package line is wrapped around the block. She's handing out stickers to kids. Kinda cute." I pictured Brooke sitting cross-legged on the lobby floor, helping a 5-year-old sound out elephant. The image softened me around the edges. People are not all one thing, even when we want them to be. Thursday morning, I finally met Logan, in daylight, like adults. We sat on the bench by the lake at City Park. People walked dogs that looked like sentient throw pillows. The air smelled like pine and baseball dust. He started with a sigh. "I messed up," he said. "That's one way to put it." "I didn't mean—" "You did. You meant it many small times. That counts too." He stared at his hands. "I don't know why I did it." "I do," I said, "because I'm steady and she's shiny, and you wanted to feel shiny. It's okay. Shiny wears off. Steady doesn't." He looked up. Are you angry?" "Yes," I said, and also weirdly relieved. He winced. We only, that night on the rooftop." "Logan," I said and snarled, "you don't have to footnote your own betrayal. I'm not grading it." We sat in the quiet. A goose hissed at a teenager. A dad chased a toddler who ran like she was made of wind. "He moved into your place," he admitted, temporarily. Brooke said, "I know." He nodded. It's different without your, I don't know, your gravity." "You mean my presence, my lists, my patience?" "Yeah." He swallowed. "I'm sorry." I believed him. Not to get me back, just sorry. It was almost worse how ordinary his regret felt. No grand grovel, just the realization that warmth is work. "Return my stand mixer and the Dutch oven." He cracked a smile. "Deal." We parted like people whose river forked. It wasn't a movie, but it was clean. That evening, Brooke posted a story of herself in a blazer at a folding table with an HOA president placard I know she printed on my label maker. "Madam President," she wrote with a crown emoji. The comments flooded with, "Yas." She looked happy. And for the first time in a long time, I realized her happiness didn't churn my stomach. It just existed. Somewhere else. You think that was the end? Oh, sweet summer child. This was only the middle. The revenge hadn't even stretched yet. Because the next step wasn't to humiliate Brooke. That's boring and cruel. The next step was to make Brooke exactly what she claimed to be, responsible. To herself, to Logan, to a building full of people who would ask things of her she couldn't pose her way out of. And then, just to add glitter, I wrapped an extra little surprise in a bow she couldn't resist opening.
The surprise arrived on a Friday in a van with a vinyl wrap that said Balloons and Company with confetti dots.
The driver was a woman named Tessa with purple hair and a laugh that made people around her laugh too. She wheeled two massive boxes into the lobby, each labeled with Brooke's full name. Brooke loves a package like cats love boxes. She ripped the tape and pulled out a cascade of branded balloons in champagne, blush, and gold, each with my nonprofit's logo and "Thank you, Brooke" printed in fancy script. There was a note. "You are officially the face of our summer reading drive. We're honored to partner with someone so committed to community. See you at the kickoff block party, Saturday, 10 a.m., right outside your building. V." Look, I told you I believe in kindness and in trapdoors. The block party had been in the works for weeks, a city permit snug in a folder, a vendor list 12 pages long, face painting, a dunk tank, a mobile library van, a secondhand book swap. It was wholesome to the point of suspicious. And the MC? The newly minted HOA president and community partner, Brooke. Logan texted me, "Did you send balloons?" I wrote, "Yes." He sent a laughing emoji and then, "You're dangerous." I wrote, "Orderly and a little dangerous." Saturday morning dawned hot and bright, the street outside my old building filled with kids chalking flowers on the sidewalk, parents juggling iced coffees, volunteers wrangling tables. The smell of grilled corn and sunscreen hung in the air. Brooke arrived in a cherry red sundress like a walking exclamation park. She looked radiant. I'll give it to her. She had a clipboard, a wireless mic, and a smile I recognize from when she was 8 and sold lemonade with me in our driveway. Maybe vengeance and grace can share a bench. Maybe letting people fall into who they are is both. The event ran like a clock because, hi, I planned it. But I stayed in the background, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses, handing out stickers that said, "I read today." A little girl with purple barrettes asked Brooke to read a page out loud with her. She did, sounding out the hard words, cheering at the end. She looked over the top of the book and caught my eye for one small second. There was something like gratitude in her face and maybe confusion. I felt a pull in my chest, the one that says, "You will always love your sister, even when she makes you want to set fire to a throw pillow." At noon, I tapped the mic and made the announcement. "We have a surprise for our new HOA president and community partner." The crowd clapped because crowds love to clap if you tell them to. I gestured and Tessa wheeled out a cart covered in a cloth. She whipped it off to reveal a ridiculous, glorious cake shaped like a stack of books. The titles, edible prints, were little jokes and inside nods. Boundaries for Beginners, The Cookie Committee, How to Say No to People Who Make You Tired, Trash Day is Tuesday. The last one, perched on top like a crown, Stealing Isn't Winning, Lessons in Responsibility. People laughed. Brooke laughed. She did. She's always been able to laugh at herself when there's a tension attached. She cut the cake with a flourish and fed the first slice to a kid who yelled, "This is the best day of my life," which is exactly the kind of thing that keeps me in this job. Now, if you're waiting for the shoe to drop, the messy reveal, the public shaming, you'll be disappointed. The point wasn't to ruin Brooke. It was to reroute her, to put her in a place where her instincts, center stage, big smiles, constant activity, actually served someone besides her reflection. I wanted to be free, and if she became useful in the process, well, that's a bonus. But don't worry, the petty was coming. Not mean, not cruel, just precise. A small, glittering, devious cherry on top that would make the audience in my head stand and slow clap. The kind of revenge that isn't a scream, but a whisper that travels. Remember the keys I tossed her on the rooftop? There was another key on that ring besides the apartment. It was to a storage unit in the building's basement, Unit 14B. Inside, neatly labeled, in clear bins, was everything Brooke had ever borrowed from me since we were teenagers. The leather jacket she swore she never took, the bracelet from Aunt Margot, my college hoodie, 3 novels with my notes in the margins, the vintage Pyrex casserole dish she couldn't find for 2 Thanksgivings, even the pink ruffled sock perched on top like a flag. I'd been collecting for months, the way you collect evidence, except I wasn't planning to throw it in her face. I was going to give it back, all of it, with a sign on the door that said in my handwriting, "Property of Vanessa, temporarily housed by Brooke. Return what is not yours. Keep what you can carry." It wasn't just stuff. It was a mirror, a museum of small thefts that add up, a room full of, oh. And I knew Brooke. She'd either laugh and spin it into content, my sister's savage storage unit reveal, or she'd go quiet for once and feel the weight. Maybe both. Either way, she'd have to decide what to do when the stealing wasn't fun, when the winning looked like work. I didn't tell her about the storage unit at the block party. I didn't even tell her that day. I waited, because suspense is what keeps people watching, and I'm nothing if not a good storyteller. After the party, I took a slow walk around the block with a snow cone that dyed my tongue blue. I passed our building. Through the glass doors, I saw Logan carrying folding chairs. Brooke was hugging Mrs. Diaz, who was crying because the chalk flowers outside her window made her feel like she lived in a storybook. A teenager high-fived Mr. Patel. The college kids held a box of donated books like it contained gold. I stood there and realized something that felt like the sun coming out from behind a building. I had moved on. Not from love, or family, or the urge to be seen, but from the specific way I had been holding it all. I could put it down. I could keep walking. I went back to the rental. Queenie was sprawled on her back like a sprawled rug, demanding belly rubs she would immediately regret. I turned on the fan and flopped onto the couch with that perfect kind of tired that belongs to people who've finished what they started. And then my phone buzzed. Brooke. A photo. A metal door with numbers stamped into it. 14B. The next photo, the inside of the storage unit. The next, the pink ruffled sock sitting on a bin labeled Brooks Borrowed and Found. Seriously, her text said, you made me a whole exhibit? I typed back, a private one, for now. A long pause. Dots, no dots, dots. Then, we need to talk. I stared at the screen, felt my heart thump once, twice. The fan hummed. Outside, someone laughed the way you do when you're sun-drunk and full of tacos. I didn't answer. Not yet. Sometimes you hold a note just a second longer than the sheet music says, just to see who's listening. Was I wrong to orchestrate it like this? Was I cruel or careful? Did I teach a lesson or just stage a show? I don't know. I do know that my life is lighter. My apartment is mine again, even if it's somewhere new, and the key in my pocket opens exactly what I want it to. Tell me, though, be honest, what would you have done?
I met Brooke in the basement because she asked, and because basements are honest places. No mood lighting, no filters, just concrete that remembers your footsteps, and a hum from the old pipes that sounds like the building thinking. She stood by the open door of Unit 14B in jeans and a sweatshirt, no lashes, hair in a messy knot like she'd put it up and forgot it existed. Inside, the bins looked almost funny in the fluorescent light. Brooks Borrowed and Found. The pink ruffled sock sat on top like a mascot with a bad attitude. She didn't start with his speech. She picked up the leather jacket, smoothed the sleeve, and smiled in this tired, crooked way. You kept all of it. I kept the pattern, I said. She nodded slowly. I deserve that. Silence sat between us, not heavy, just true. I thought I stole him, she said finally. Like, I really believed I won something, but it never felt like winning. It felt like trying on a dress that looks good in the mirror and pinches the whole time you're wearing it. I leaned against the doorframe. Logan isn't a dress. I know, she said, then grimaced. He's a decent guy who wanted to be clapped for. I'm a girl who hears clapping and thinks it's food. She set the jacket down and looked at me. I'm sorry, Ness. Not performative sorry. Basement sorry. Basement sorry is what you say when there's no audience to impress. It sounds different. It lands. I don't need you to humiliate yourself. I do need you to stop taking without asking from me, from anyone. I pointed at the bins. You can return what isn't yours, donate what you won't use, and keep the tiny things that make you laugh when you're 80. But the habit, I tapped the door, that stays here. She snorted. The Brooke Museum closes tonight? Grand opening and final exhibit, I said. We took inventory the way kids count a stash of Halloween candy. A necklace from Aunt Margot that still smelled faintly like her rose lotion, the park print set I'd hunted for at a yard sale, the Pyrex dish that had survived 4 Thanksgivings and 1 ill-fated lasagna, 3 novels with my scribbles, underlines, little stars, a note in the margin that read, "You are allowed to want things." Brooke stopped at that one and touched the words with her fingertip like she was checking if they were wet paint. Why didn't you just, I don't know, blow me up? Post screenshots, drag me online. That would have gone viral. Because I didn't want viral. I wanted peace. And maybe growth. Public shame makes people perform. Private mirrors make people think. She breathed out. You always did know how to twist the knife kindly. I said, I left the knife at home. I brought a label maker. We both laughed, and it felt like a valve opening. On cue, the elevator dinged. Logan stepped out, holding my stand mixer like a peace offering and a Dutch oven like a confession. He looked nervous in that way dogs look when they know a thunderstorm is coming. He said, I'm returning your tools. Awkward and earnest. Good, I said. They work better with recipes. He rubbed the back of his neck. He's told me about, the unit. He glanced at the bins and then at me. You're scary, he said, but he was smiling. In a orderly way. People keep saying that. Maybe I should put it on a shirt. He shifted. We're not. I mean, we've been talking and I don't need a relationship update, I said. You owe me my kitchen gear and an honest life. You brought the gear, work on the life. He nodded. I'm moving out next week. He looked more relieved than sad. Staying with a friend for a bit. Going to be quiet. Quiet is good medicine, I said. Take it with water. He left. Brooke watched him go and let out a breath she'd been holding for a month. Do you hate me? She asked. She tried to make it a joke and failed. I don't, I said, but I can't be your cleanup crew anymore. That's the difference. So what now? We just separate lives and polite holidays? We try boundaries that aren't fake, I said. We do family like grown women, and you keep being HOA president until your term is done. Her eyes widened. That wasn't part of... It is now. Responsibility rehab. You want to play face of the block? You carry the block for a while. Do you know how many emails old people send about recycling bins? I do. And you're going to answer them without sarcasm. Also, Mrs. Diaz needs help reorganizing her pantry, and Mr. Patel wants a Saturday morning community run. You're doing both. Is this still revenge? She asked. This is community service dressed as character development. Tell me, it won't look great on your brand? She cracked up. Oh my God, it will, she admitted. Fine, I'll be the president this building didn't know it needed. We spent the next hour sorting the museum. The basement air was cool and smelled of dust and citrus cleaner. I watched Brooke make piles, keep, return, donate, and something in my chest unclenched I didn't even know was tight. When we were done, I locked the unit, pressed the key into her palm, and said, You do the rest. Send me a picture when it's empty. She nodded. Deal. Then softer. Thank you for not destroying me when you could. I didn't want you destroyed. I wanted me free.
We went upstairs. The lobby bulletin board had a new flyer Brooke had made, Saturday story swap. Bring a book, take a book, meet a neighbor. There was a doodle of a smiling book that looked like it had eyebrows. It was dorky and sweet. Outside, chalk flowers still clung to the sidewalk. Kids had added suns with faces and a dog with suspiciously human teeth. Mrs. Diaz waved from her window. Mr. Patel jogged by and shouted, "President Brooke, Town Hall Thursday!" Brooke winced and then gave him a thumbs up like a soldier saluting a very enthusiastic general. I walked home, my new home, with the lemon tree on the balcony and the creaky floor that sounded like an old song, and set the stand mixer on the counter like a trophy no one else could read. Queenie watched from the couch, tail flicking, judging me in that generous cat way. On Sunday, I baked a cake in the vintage Pyrex and took 2 slices to the building, one for Mrs. Diaz, one for Brooke. I knocked. She opened the door, hair still wet, wearing an HOA t-shirt she had definitely made overnight. "Don't say a word," she said, blushing. "I won't," I said, handing her the plate. "Eat before you answer emails." We ate on the steps like teenagers, knees touching, fork clinks, and easy silence. She showed me a draft of a new tenant welcome sheet she had made with real rules and fake cheerful clip art. I fixed a comma splice. She added a line about the little free library hours. Do you ever think we become our best selves because somebody refused to play along with our worst ones? She asked. Sometimes refusing is the kindest thing, I said. She looked at me. You're not good at kindness the way I am. You're good at people, I said. Point it at something that matters. She nodded. I will. Later that week, the block held another small event. No balloons, no fanfare, just neighbors bringing soups and old stories. Brooke ran around refilling cups, listening more than she talked. Logan showed up with folding chairs again, then slipped out early. We didn't talk. We didn't need to. And me?
I went back to running events where kids find words and words find kids. I slept like a person who turned the last page and let the cover fall shut. I set one new rule for my life and taped it inside my mental cabinet door. No more staging for other people's pictures. If something is mine, it's mine. If it isn't, it doesn't live in my house. The storage unit emptied and Brooke sent the photo like she promised. Bare floor, one sticky note left on the wall. I'm done borrowing. I believed her. Not forever because people are messy, but for now because she'd been tired and chose rest over spectacle. I don't think karma is a lightning bolt. I think it's a calendar. You put something on it and eventually the day comes and you show up, or it passes and you live with the miss. Brooke showed up. So did I. That's enough. Before I close this out, I'll say what I wish someone had told me years ago. Kindness without boundaries is a costume. Empathy with a spine is a superpower. You can love people and still hand them their own work. You can forgive and still keep your keys. So, tell me, did I end it right? Would you have given Brooke the museum or gone full scorched earth? Drop your take in the comments. If this story hit home, tap subscribe and ring the bell so you're there when the next wild true story drops. Hit like if you think basement sorry should be a thing. And share this with a friend who needs a little nudge to choose peace over drama. And because I'm nosy, what's the smartest, pettiest act of justice you've ever pulled that actually helped someone grow? Best answer gets pinned in the top comment.